Okay, so the next part that we need to look at is the sustainable management of the carbon cycle. And this is because human impacts can be significant, especially to things like climate change. So these are going to be some things that we've sort of touched on before when we were talking about climate change. But they are to manage how humans impact the carbon cycle. So the first one, conservation of biomass. This is things like legal protections for areas with large amounts of carbon stored in their biomass. So this is things like peat bogs and forests. And the idea is to prevent damaging land use change and lock away that carbon so that it prevents even more CO2 emissions. Alternative fuels are things like using renewables or nuclear, which do not emit CO2. And that helps prevent that sort of change to the atmospheric reservoir. We got carbon sequestration through afforestation, which draws down CO2 from the atmosphere. And if we then use the wood for building houses or something like that and replant, then we are going to increase the carbon storage because the carbon has not been released, it's being sort of preserved in that building until its end of life. So it increases the amount of carbon sequestration takes place. The last one then is carbon capture and storage. And we have two ways that we can do this. We have pre-combustion technology. And this is where we change the fuel to make capture easier or more efficient. And this is important because there might be small uses that's hard to capture. Things like ships or cars or something like that. It's really difficult to try and capture CO2 from those. So we've got gasification, where we convert fuel like coal into hydrogen and CO2. The hydrogen, if it's combusted, produces water as a waste product. And the CO2, because it's done at mass in a factory, it's very easy to capture. So we can remove for storage. Alternatively, we've got oxy-fuel combustion. And this is where we use pure oxygen and fuel, with the idea being that this will make only CO2 and water as the waste product. This can be condensed, and this is at a higher concentration. So, and it's not mixed with other waste gases. so it's easier to remove. The alternative is post-combustion. Technology. And this is where we remove it from the exhaust of whatever it's being burnt. And this can be done either by dissolving in a solvent, using something called high pressure membrane filtration, adsorption, and desorption processes, cryogenic separation, and graphene absorption. None of these are at full scale yet, but every year we seem to be getting a bit closer, and some countries have started some large scale processes, so not fully developed. And it's made harder because only 20% of waste gases is CO2. So it's at a low concentration, which makes it more expensive to actually extract, because you have to deal with all the other gases. And then finally, once you've done all that, you need to store it. So this can be somewhere where it cannot return to the atmosphere. Some sort of underground geological structure is usually the best. So something like depleted aquifers, so it can fill up the void space where water was, or oil fields, or gas fields. So it will fill the voids left. It can also be injected into oil reserves for secondary oil recovery. This is where you're basically putting it into a depleted oil field, and as you do so, all the remaining oil gets squirted up back into your like jack. And there's some research that suggests that CO2 pumped into fractured basalt, which is an igneous rock, reacts, and this results in solid carbonates, minerals, which would be best because then it cannot escape for geological time periods. So that might be a really promising future avenue.